It's going to be interesting to see how Raul Rosas responds to his first ever career loss and in front of a absolutely hostile Mexican crowd. Third from the top in this one, meat boy. Raul Rosas Jr. is taking on Terrence Mitchell, who, if you look at his record, Terrence Mitchell looks pretty good, right? 14-3. The guy at one point had won essentially 10 fights straight, but if you really kind of dissect his wins and losses, the wins he got were against a lot of really bad fighters, a lot of dudes who were sub 500, some guys with zero career wins as it is, and just a litany of pretty low level competition. And the only time we've seen Terrence Mitchell in the UFC, he got absolutely smoked in one round by your boy Cameron Simon. And that was a fight where he was somewhat keeping it close for the first maybe 30 seconds, but after that first takedown, after those first few heavy strikes that Simon landed, that fight was over. Mitchell clearly proved that he wasn't quite ready for that UFC competition. So in this one, Rosas, I mean, they gave him Jay Perrin to start on a main card. Everyone was pissed off about it, but he made light work. First round finish over the veteran Jay Perrin. But once they fed him C-Rod, he kind of got exposed, and that was a fight that C-Rod really did dominate across 15 minutes. So to me, at around minus 700 at this point, this feels to me like the UFC is saying, hey, here's the worst guy on roster we have, third from the top in front of your hometown crowd. Here's an easy way to get back on track with essentially a layup. But I don't know, meat boy, is Raul Rosas Jr. worth the minus 700 price tag? Is he that much of a lock, or does Terrence Mitchell maybe have some dog value? Who you going with?
Honestly, this is one of those. This is a no-brainer to not put something on the dog because, as we saw, Raul Rosa low-key is trash. If he can't take you down, he is going to get scared, crumble. I mean, honestly, his last performance, it kind of reminded me Dan Hooker versus the Italian boy. That he couldn't take him down, and he just got scared and crumbled. And Terrence Mitchell's pretty bad, so Rosas should win, but jeez, minus 700, that is lunacy. You have to be the biggest casual in MMA history to even touch that. Now, if there's props that are positive, maybe a KO or decision or submission, and you're feeling lucky and you want to roll that on, Rosas, maybe. But to even get near that, I mean, I don't know what's worse. Putting $700 to win $100 on Raul Rosa, or being Drake and putting 500K on Izzy and absolutely getting demolished by Sean Strickland. I don't know what's a worse bet. But I got to take Rosas, but I am not confident whatsoever. Mitchell's really bad, but so is Rosas. So I'm hoping Rosas can level up, learn, and get it done. But I'm fading it completely. I'm probably even going to put a little doink on Mitchell because the odds are going to be so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Terror Bear at plus 500. He is the 33-year-old fighter fighting against the 18-year-old, so he is going to have that more adult old man strength. But El Nino Problema has said that he's essentially been rolling, working, grappling, striking, doing everything with the adults since he was about 12 or 13 years old. So definitely a fun fighter, right? This is someone who is probably going to have a long history in this promotion and is just barely coming into his own. So you know that the sky's the limit for this kid. At this point of his career, how good is he yet? We don't quite know. But you mentioned the Dan Hooker versus Claudio Poiles, who I believe is from Peru, but nonetheless a great comparison there because once Poiles realized that his game plan wasn't going to work, he really had nothing to offer against Dan Hooker, and that was very similar to what Rosas Jr. looked like against our boy C-Rod. But in this one, meat boy, again, minus 700-ish is Rosas Jr., around plus 500 for Terror Bear. Tapology is pretty bullish on Rosas Jr., no surprises there, but there is a lot of copper for that sub. 11% meanwhile roll with Terror Bear. If Rosas gets this done, what do you think might be the best available prop? Like, would you see Rosas Jr. getting this done early and often, like first round finish similar to how Simon did against Mitchell, or perhaps could there be some Mitchell survival value where you clench it up and maybe it takes Rosas 1 or 2 rounds? If Rosas gets a finish, is it early or is it later?
If Rosas wins, I would imagine a saucy, doink would be on the under 0.5 or under 1.5, if that's plus money, which the under 0.5 most likely will be, just because if you look at any of Rosas fights, he usually ends it early. Now, if it goes the distance, that's probably be nice too. So it's really whichever one you're feeling. But I would imagine Rosas gets a submission if he wins, and I imagine it goes early. I think the later the fight goes, I think the worse if it's going to get, unless Rosas can take him down at will effortlessly. If Rosas misses and gets stuffed like 6 takedowns, he's going to gas to pump chump just like the last fight and then crumble at will. I mean, Mitchell's pretty bad too, so I don't. This is just one of those fights. It's like, not surprised on whoever wins. Like both these guys suck.
Yeah, it could be pretty rough. I guess I just feel like the UFC has put so much of a promotional push behind this kid that this has to be a layup. Like, this has to be a fight that ends up being non-competitive. Like, this has to ultimately end up looking something like Bo Nickel versus the Night Wolf Jamie Pickett. Like, I feel like this fight is going to probably last 3 minutes, and even though we might think both guys are relatively bad, Terrence Mitchell has to just be way worse than Rosas Jr. So I'm going to guess that El Nino Problema gets this one done. Just for the promotional aspect and the UFC usually knowing what they're doing, I'd be surprised if this goes past the first round. But you also kind of wonder if they thought that C-Rod was a layup for Rosas Jr., and that clearly turned out not to be the case. So maybe I'm sleeping on Terror Bear. I just kind of think he's not on C-Rod's level. I think he's closer to a BKFC level. So I'm going to go Rosas by first round finish. Probably submission, but maybe he's out there trying to make a statement. Maybe he showcases an improved stand-up game, and maybe he's going to be gunning for some sort of finish on the ground as opposed to just that early and often submission that he's been getting. Because a lot of people, I mean, it sounds like you and I kind of are a part of that, are sort of writing off Rosas Jr. at this point and perhaps not buying the hype that we were initially sold in the first place. So maybe this is a good opportunity for him to get us back on Team El Nino Problema. So I'm going to go Rosas Jr. by first round finish. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first round finish is definitely the move, or a sprinkle on Mitchell. Don't look how much you're taking it and why. Smash me, subscribe.